So I want to talk about a new A24 film, which means it's either really, 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 really good or really weird. And this is a combination of both. It's mostly really, really good. The Whale. God damn, is this a good movie? The Whale's directed by Darren Aronofsky of Requiem for a Dream, Black Swan, Mother fame. That last one's a bit more controversial. Um, it tells the tale of an English teacher trying to reconnect with his daughter after years of not seeing her. He's oh, I don't want to say it offensively, but I think the correct term would be more, is it morbidly obese? Like he's very overweight. Um the trailer, if you have seen the trailer, he's not that overweight. It's more. It's much more. I was in shock and almost cried when I saw certain things. And what's weird is I never felt disgusted, and I never felt like they're exploiting the fact that this character is overweight, or they're it didn't I what I thought going in, because if you are a fan of Darren Aronofsky, or you know his most famous film, Requiem for a Dream. Requiem for a Dream is the anti-drug movie. If I, as a kid, when we were told about drugs in high school, I mean, obviously, I smoke weed, I post about it, but hard drugs, that sort of shit, I don't play around with. And in terms of needles, I don't really like needles, so I've always been like, why would anybody outside of the drug dangerous part of it ever want to shoot up anything? Because it's needles, they're scary. And then Requiem for a Dream, when I watch that movie, I'm like, yeah, I never want to do any of those drugs. Like, that is horrifying. And so, since he made that movie, which not only having no experience with these drugs that were showcased in Requiem for a Dream, not only sort of showcased what it was like to use them, what it's like to be addicted to them, the fallout of having an addiction, i.e., dying, having your arm amputated, electroshock I mean, if you've seen this movie scars you, and it's a good thing, because it's like it's a necessary wound. If you're a person who, and I've never been, but if you're a person who's ever had any thought of like dipping below the bar of like marijuana or alcohol, watch that movie. You'll never want to touch anything other than that. Um, so after saying that, I thought, well, if this is a movie about someone who's overweight, I hope he's not going to pull like a Requiem for a Dream, because that would be kind of weird. Because it's one thing to showcase a drug addiction like that, but to showcase, binge eating or something like that might be a little weird. And there is some binge eating sort of situations in here, and oh boy, like this is a this is a really like hard film, but it's not a hard film to watch in the way something like Schindler's List would be, where like they're both emotional films in their own right. But Schindler's List, has disturbing content. You see a lot of people in absolute suffering and pain, and the government just going along with it. And in The Whale, there's so much humanity in it, and there is in Schindler's List, and I'm going to stop comparing the two of those, but that the sense of bleakness is nearly washed away, but at the same time, it's still there. There are certain moments, this is what made me love the movie as I drove home. There are certain, like, moments of visual storytelling that I was sitting there watching the movie with a friend, and I was just thinking about the visual storytelling part. There's a moment where a character who's overweight, so Brendan Fraser's character, whose name is Charlie, he's in a wheelchair, and he wants to get into this room so he can remember somebody that he lost. That's my implication from, they didn't technically say it out loud, but that's my implication from the scene. And he can't get through because the wheelchair is too big, he's a bit too overweight. but he can see everything in the room. He can't turn the light on, but he can see the bedroom where he used to be with his partner, where they used to spend time together. It's all clean and kept perfect. He can see the Bible his partner used to read. He can see the books they used to read together, the nightstand near their bed. He can see everything. He can see their memory. And at first when I saw that, I thought, well, this is representing the fact that he lost someone, and maybe, you know, as a coping mechanism, he started overeating, and that's literally keeping him from fully, you know, moving on, or you know, going, you know, being able to revisit those memories maybe in a way that would be more healthy and be able to look back fondly on them. Now, I haven't lost a ton of people around me in my life, like family-wise, but recently and over the past year or so, I've known a lot of friends who have lost people, and based just briefly on interacting with them, and I'm gonna try not to cry here, and how loss affects people, like someone passing away, this film isn't too far off. Like because that scene, when I drove home, what I realized was it wasn't really because the guy was too overweight. It was because it was about loss. Because what it's showing, whether bittersweet or good or bad, is he can see that bedroom, so he can see everything. He can see the Bible that is his partner used to read, whether he believed in Christianity himself or not. He can see the bedroom they used to be together in, they used to make love in. He can see the books his partner used to read. He can see the picture of him, and it's loss. Because you can't get back. All you want to do is get back, and you can't do it. Because you're stuck. You're just stuck looking at it. You can see the memory. You can see, this is the bedroom we used to be together in. This is the book he used to read. This is the cup he used to always drink out of. And the reason why I'm emotional, because I haven't lost someone personally like this, is because the movie did it so well that it struck me for days after watching it. And I don't know if it's a great movie for people to watch while going through a loss or not. Maybe it's something they need to wait, but that's just a sequence in that movie, and that alone was like moved me, and I was like, this movie's like near perfect. The editing choices, everything here is great. The only, downside you could say is that this is more based on a play, so it's a smaller cast. It's shot mostly within like Charlie's apartment. The score, I was surprised, was very good. It's very beautiful, and really complements the haunting but emotional optimism of the main character in the movie. And they use, I think it's the sound design too, I don't think it's just the score, uses some different sounds of like the waves and different things to incorporate into the film. The makeup and hair design, like the hairstyling is, pretty decent. The makeup actually, because obviously everyone's I'm gonna talk about Brendan Fraser's makeup in a second, but everyone else's makeup surprisingly was pretty decent. Like the only makeup where it was more noticeable was Sadie Sink, because she was playing a teenage character. She was being more edgy, but like I noticed, like it was pretty good on all the characters, all the hairstyling. But of course the main thing people talk about is Brendan Fraser. Like I had to do like a double take. Like Jesus Christ, when he stood up, like it was crazy. And again, in that immediate moment, I never felt disgust. And that's what I liked. And I don't feel like that was me being like, oh, I need to be politically correct in my own head. It was like the movie never made me feel that way. It made me feel like, no, this isn't weird because he's overweight. It's sad or weird because he's let this happen, because he's effectively killing himself, if you look at it in some ways. And it's very tragic because this film doesn't portray it as, oh, look at the guy, blah, 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 doing mukbang, basically. It's not like that. It's not a horror movie either. And I think people need to challenge themselves. I mean, obviously, you don't need to go see this movie. You don't have to. But I think if you think just seeing, like, the poster or something weirds you out, and you get weirded out by just seeing the image of this person, I think, well, maybe you don't need to see the movie, but you might just need to, like, think for a second, because as much as this is a fictional character, there are people who struggle with their weight like that, and I just think, like, I work at a movie theater, and I've known customers who've come in, and occasionally they don't complain about the posters because we have much nastier movie posters, but, like, some people say, oh, it's kind of creepy, the whale poster, and all I'm thinking is, like, it's just a guy who, he may be unhealthy, but he's just overweight. It's not Chucky. It's not a baby being ripped in half. It's not anything nasty. And that was one thing that struck me a little bit. And I'm not trying to judge people. I thought that while I was watching a movie, I was like, huh. It's very small cast. Everyone does a good job. Hong Chow is amazing. Sadie Sink is great. Ty Simpkins is great. Samantha Morton's great. Brendan Fraser, I can't unsee him in this. I watched an interview with him and I heard his voice and I was just like, that's Charlie. Like, that's Charlie to me. He played it so well. And the ending of this movie was so moving and so powerful that, like, I was sobbing. I heard my friend over my sobs over the very pretty, I mean, it's a good theater sound design, very good music, and very high violins. I had to turn to him and make sure he was okay, and, like, count to 3 with him and make sure he was breathing enough, because that's how much this movie made him cry. And for some people, that might be too much, but for me, what I see in movies, and I just watched The Fabelmans too, and I think, you know, it's a movie about making movies, is it's like a roller coaster, and you can go watch a movie like Black Panther, and that's a roller coaster, some emotions and some action and stuff, and that's a good movie. I'm not trying to compare these two. You watch a movie like this is an emotional roller coaster, and I like it for that. And for some people, that's not going to be an experience you want to do. It's just like a horror movie. Some people don't like to see horror. Some people do. Some people like that feeling of my pulse going up. And this is one of the best movies of the year. And one of the best performances of the year. The best performance I've ever seen from Brendan Fraser. I've seen some negative reviews of this, and I could maybe see some of it, but I have no fucking clue how people could think that Brendan Fraser was bad in this. He is so good. The reason I say it is because it's not like he's like Morgan Freeman or something where, like, okay, like, he's been around for a bit, but, like, he is an established, you know, like Morgan Freeman, you'd expect some Oscar acting. Like, this, he's so good. Like, the only person who could maybe even come close to him this year is Colin Farrell in Banshees of Inisherin, because I thought he was pretty good. But, like, he didn't even have to be crying, because when he starts crying in the movie, I start wailing. But, like, he didn't even have to, like, do much in the movie, and I was, like, crying or responding to the movie. Darren Aronofsky, his directing in this is amazing. I think it's important to note that even though he's not directing, you know, something sweeping like Dune or something where, you know, it's a big task, I think this is a monumental undertaking. You have to be a little careful with the subject matter, but you also, he's such a meticulous director. And in this movie, I don't know if he took the extra time, because my friend I saw it with said this was a pretty carbon copy of the play. Darren Aronofsky usually has some pretty heavy anti-religious symbolism, and this one, which particularly deals with some LGBT issues more, seems to take a little bit more of a nuanced approach, which I actually appreciated. I thought made it a bit better. And when I say LGBT, I mean, I feel like anybody could watch this. Not that that should stop you from watching this, but I don't feel like that's what this movie isn't like all about that either, but like I just can't. I've been so moved by this movie. I feel like it's not as an important of a film, but I feel like after watching this, I feel like after I watched Mass last year at Sundance, this is a 10 out of 10 movie. There's a couple pieces of the film score which on their own make me cry. So sorry for tearing up, and hopefully I didn't make people tear up, but that's how good this movie is. The only thing I will mention, because it is pretty graphic, is the opening scene involves some sexual content, which involves a character doing something, and you see what they're watching. I'll let you figure out what that means. But yeah, that's literally like the only scene, and it is played for the point of sort of a desperation, and also just for, you know, this person is so overweight that like something like that would strain them, something that would be, you know, maybe offensive to some, but would be considered normal, would strain them. So I would definitely recommend this if you're okay with a movie that is going to make you cry a lot. It's a 10 out of 10 from me. One of the best movies of the year.